Should be live streaming here in a moment. It's taking just a second, but I think it's going to work this time. All right, and we are live.
Okay. Oh, there's Carl. 1 minute and then we'll start. Welcome, everybody. This is a meeting, February 12th meeting of the Salem Public Art Commission. And I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everyone here. And maybe we could go around and just introduce ourselves. I'm Susan Apac. I'm the chair of the commission.
Brian Hart, Commissioner.
Spencer Emmer, Commissioner.
Chris Darcy, Commissioner.
I'm Kathleen Swarm. I'm the staff liaison.
Welcome, Carl.
Hi, I'm Carl Roth. I'll be joining your group as a commissioner sometime this year.
Welcome.
Great. Thanks for coming today.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here and look forward to giving you an orientation over the next few weeks and an official welcome once you have joined us. But thank you for joining today.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm looking forward to it.
Hi, Carl.
Hey, Spencer.
Any timing in terms of getting the paperwork
I'm
done?
hoping paperwork will be sent your way in a couple weeks. I know they've been meaning to get it out and ran into a couple administrative barriers on our end, nothing to do with you, so.
Okay, understandable.
Yes, I hope it is very soon.
Great.
Great.
Let's see, do we have any public comments today?
We do not.
Public comment, moving along. Approval of the consent agenda. Do we have a motion, or can I make the motion to approve the consent agenda? From
Second.
February 12th? Okay. Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Passed. Okay, Krista's. Oh, is Krista?
Oh, Krista's here, all right. And was that motion for the minutes of the January 8th meeting as well? Approval of
Oh, yes, sorry, I didn't. Yes, it was.
Okay,
So we'll
great.
just- Don't need to vote again, do we?
that? No.
Okay. And there was just that one.
And I
Change,
changed, yes, I
right.
changed it on the
Okay.
minutes that are posted on the
Great.
web.
Great.
I have just one correction to the minutes.
Yeah.
Now that they've been adopted. I referenced an artist named whose last name is Ramey. In the minutes, her name is spelled Remey and it's Ramey. Just for the record.
Great, thank you. I'll make sure that's updated. Thank you, Chris.
Great.
Hey, Krista, do you wanna just introduce yourself and?
Hi, Krista Lauer, Commissioner.
Okay, and we have Carl joining us today, who's going to be joining the commission, and he's visiting today until they make that final.
Hello.
New business, so Slow Art Day. I did, this kind of came up really fast. And it was something that I just saw as like low-hanging fruit, something that we could do to outreach to the community in a very simple way, hopefully. It came about because I'm in an art book club, and we were reading the book, I think it's called The Most Beautiful Thing in the World. I can't remember the name of it, I meant to write it down. But it was about a guard at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. He wrote a book about his experience being a guard there. And we had read a book before that where a journalist had been a guard at the Guggenheim, and they both focused on spending time really looking at artwork because they were there for hours and hours. And someone in the group said, oh, they're involved with another organization, so we do this Slow Art Day. What's Slow Art Day? So I looked it up. It is a international organized thing. It doesn't come from one particular organization. I think just a small group of people started it. Where they have the website. We can look at the website. And it's basically you invite people to a venue to look at artworks. They say 5, we can do whatever we want for like 10 minutes, focus 10 minutes on one piece of art. And then a facilitator will be on hand to discuss afterwards. Sometimes they recommend going out to lunch with the people or whatever. But basically, I thought we could easily do this at the library, where we have groupings of 3 artworks. I was over there today, and there are 2 sites there that have 3 groupings of artwork. We could publicize it through social media, through other venues. I talked to Salem on the Edge, who is excited about doing it that day, and also, and it's a single day, so it's Saturday, April 5th. And I talked to Matthew over at Salem Art Association. He was very excited about it. He had known about it also. So we could sort of piggyback in terms of publicity. The details, could be that we have, I thought of reaching out to the reinstallation committee. So I did reach out to Paula Booth. I haven't heard back from her, but there's Rachel Bucci, there's Eileen Cotter Hell, and Chris, I'm sort of gonna rely on you maybe to, since you were so involved in that, to recommend who you think might be, we could reach out to just be there, and maybe it's just an hour. Maybe it's 10 minutes on 3 pieces. You invite them to look for 10 minutes each, that's a half hour. And then maybe a half hour of the facilitator telling a little more about the work, answering any questions, getting responses from the people, what their experience was like, looking at a piece of art for 10 minutes. I did have reached out to the library, some of the library staff, and Kathleen said she would facilitate that, maybe we would have someone at the door, or we would maybe put out in the publicity, meet us over in front of the window that looks out on the Civic Center, which is right in between the two sides. So it could be just a kind of a simple, easy way to get probably not a lot of people. I don't see hordes responding to this, but maybe a good group of people to come in that we can expose to the collection. And also it's an outreach, it'll be publicity. So people will know that we're doing this, and it's just another form of outreach. So I didn't want to move forward with any more of this until I got response from the commissioners on it. So what is your response to that?
Hi, this is Chris. I'll just be really upfront. I have no capacity to be involved with this event. I'm maxed out this spring. I've got certain things going on with the legislature that I'm involved in, and I just don't have any bandwidth.
How about in terms of recommending who to contact? I mean, I definitely am taking the reins on this. So, but because of your knowledge of who was involved, if you could just, I don't even have Eileen Cotter Howell's contact information and all that. So if there's any way you could just do that, it would be appreciated. Just get me that information.
Well, I certainly have her email.
Do you think that that she might be open to doing this for an hour?
You would need to talk to her. I don't know.
Appreciate your upfrontness. Krista, is this, I was hoping that you might be able to post something about it?
I could definitely post something. I won't be available to actually help or facilitate on the event, just because Saturdays I am working at the vineyard and that's our busiest day. So it would be really hard for me to take that day off, but I could definitely help promote the event via social. Absolutely.
Any other thoughts?
I love it. And I'll help in any way I can.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
You're available that day?
what day is
April,
it?
it's Saturday, April 5th.
Fifth, we just.
Yeah.
I love the idea for sure.
I don't know how much I should weigh in here, but I'd be probably available to help as well.
That'd be great, Carl.
We love that.
Yay.
Susan, do you
Put it
anticipate
on your
if
calendar, I will definitely reach out about that. If we have 3 members of the commission that are on site that day, is that a problem? Is that a quorum? I mean, we won't
Just
be talking
three.
about commission business.
3 maximum,
Okay.
3 maximum.
Oh, I was gonna say I could check if I'm available, but that's okay.
Okay.
Susan, do you anticipate if like Salem on the Edge and Art Association, if they are interested in participating, would you foresee like you would be leading one discussion, they would lead a discussion, and then like would each kind of organization have one work that they're facilitating that conversation, or how would you see that going?
They would do their own thing.
Okay.
The way that the site works too is you actually register as a site. And then people can register also to attend. I think we can, I don't know what happens when they do that. I have to do a little research to see whether we get their names or, I don't really know what, how that works, but they would be doing their own thing. So one thing that I did think of though is, as far as timing, let's say we do it from 1 to 2, they do it from 2 to 3, maybe space it out, maybe, something like that, so that if somebody wants to go into all 3 venues, they could do that. So I will reach out to them and see if they wanna kind of, do it that way. But they'll have their own people and their own, how to do it however they want. The 3 artworks, I don't know if you wanna show the photos, maybe I can just tell you which pieces if you're interested.
And we probably have a little more discussion to do with the library to confirm what pieces work best for them, where if there were a discussion to happen in the library, if we could have it there, if it made sense to do next to these pieces. So we have some things in mind that I can show photos of as potential artworks. But until we work with the library, we probably can't.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to do that, but it's the grouping with Louis Bunce, Nancy Lindberg, and Carl Morris was the one that I think would be a good spot. It's got tables in front of it. It's sort of a little bit out of the way, and I think we could do the discussion quietly right there, depending on how many people. If we do need, if it does seem like a really large group, maybe we could see if there's a room available at the library. But unless there's any objection, I'm gonna move ahead with that. Do we need to make a motion or anything like that?
Yeah, I think I would suggest a motion, to move forward with the planning, considering, the library feedback and all of that.
Okay, so moved. Anybody want a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, passed. All right, moving along. Unfinished business, the work plan and project prioritization. Oh, one thing about the library, just to backtrack for a second, I did speak to a young man today, an artist who seems to spend a lot of time around that artwork, and said that the table and chairs are set up in such a way and that the artwork is situated kind of low, so that when somebody sits back in the chair, it actually can go into the artwork. The large one in particular, so I think we need to, I don't know what we need to do about that, but just keep it on our radar. That, we should watch out for that and talk to the library about it and maybe move them up. Or something, if that's possible.
What work of art did he refer to?
It was particularly the, that's the Louis Vuitton, the big one. There's a table right in front of it. And I said, what about moving the tables further up? And he said, they're just gonna get moved back. The people move them back.
Well, someone should go over and look at it.
Well, I didn't see any damage. I was just there.
Mhm.
I didn't notice any damage at all. He was just pointing it out.
This
That,
was a library staff person?
no, this was a young man who was there, who seemed to spend a lot of time in that area. He even was an artist and showed me his artwork.
There's a staff person at the library who deals with issues like that. I cannot remember his name, but he is the main contact for that library kiosk that will go into the art hall. And probably that person could help facilitate moving the piece up if indeed the work of art needs to be moved. I'm sure that there was a protocol that was followed by the install committee in terms of positioning on a particular wall, up and down and sideways, for example. But I wish I could remember this guy's name. He's pretty friendly, and he is the person who's been involved with the IT side of that kiosk. So it would probably be easy to figure out, get a hold of him at the library.
Okay.
And the way those pieces, the three pieces are situated, it probably all three of them would need to move up, just because it would be, even if the other ones aren't in danger of being hit, it just would need to be consistent, I think. Okay, the work plan. You want to talk about a little bit about what you have in mind for how this works? Because I'm not, it's
Yes.
the chart.
Yeah, and I think there's two other things, two projects that have came up in the last couple days for Susan and I that we want to talk about as well, that they're not necessarily listed on the page that you're all viewing here. But we will need to talk a little bit about that library kiosk. And also utility art wraps, that there's some information about both of those that have came in the last couple days that would be helpful for the entire commission to understand when talking about prioritizing projects. So this work plan, this spreadsheet was developed with the hopes of and the intention of putting action into play when it comes to the projects. I'm very new to staff liaison for this commission, but the project and potential project load for this group is very high from my initial assessment. I'm fairly new to the city. I was only working here for 3-ish years, I think a little over now. And before working for the city, I only worked in the private sector. So one thing that's very apparent to me in my short time here with the city is that the scope of what we do here as a staff person and you as a commission is very large. So what we touch here, just even as a commission, impacts a very large, not only internal staff capacity, but also has a large impact on our community. And that's why what we do is so valuable, is because we have this opportunity to impact our city. But what is important is when you're making change for on behalf of a community, on the residents and visitors of a city, everything has to be very thoughtful. And there comes into play all the bureaucracy and red tape that I think we're all very familiar with, and why it's so hard to get anything done. So I personally, working for the city, have found it very helpful to stay very focused. As you can imagine, the ideas and the projects and the possibilities of what I can bring forward are immense. They're innumerable, they're infinite, the ways that I can move forward. But I have found it's most helpful if I stay very focused, because most of the projects that I take on as an employee of the city, they take typically years to develop and to put into action. And it's very slow, steady steps towards the end goal. And when I stay focused and dedicated to certain projects, that's when I see the change in the momentum. And I know that's true for other commissions, and what I would suggest here is that we carefully select the projects and we stay very dedicated and focused, and we have groups of people who are working to see them through, because the scope of every project that we're going to mention is very, very large. As much as I would love to say putting some of these programs into in would be easy, I imagine most of these projects that we're going to suggest will happen over more than a year's time. And we want to stay focused and dedicated and have lots of hands helping to make that happen. So that being said, this work plan was kind of developed because we have a lot going on, a lot under our umbrella, but at some point we need to choose what are those things that we're going to stay dedicated to, and how can we form, typically a subcommittee is a good way to get things moving and done. How can we form subcommittees or assign commissioners to certain projects to see them move forward and make those change? And there's so many wonderful projects that we have the opportunity to do that it's going to be a hard choice of which ones kind of make the top of the list. So that's the work that Chris and Susan have been doing, is trying to prioritize those projects. And it's not that the other ones will get lost. There's some things that are completely ongoing, but it's right now we have that kind of tough choice of what projects are going to make our 2025 work plan, and who are we going to have who will take the baton and move them forward.
Thank you.
Yes.
I guess I see it as more, like, we do have a lot of different things that goals we want to try to accomplish. And then there are other things that are down the pike that we need to be paying attention to, and we need to be involved in on a certain level. But I think I'm hoping, without too much stress on you, that we can kind of keep certain balls in the air, like the mural program application. I mean, that is a large thing, but something that's simple, possibly simple, is to just update the web page and make it more user friendly. I mean, that's one step of just saying, hey, that's an incremental little change that we can make without redoing the entire application, also changing the code to make it not be 7 years. I mean, that can be a goal, but there are certain things that we can do. The Salem Kaiser Together sign we will discuss, and that can probably go off the list. The slow art day is a 1-day thing, that'll go off the list. So that's why I was saying that I sort of see it as a organic thing that things pop up, like if another program comes like Slow Art Day or like the Yarn Ball. That starts to pop up and be something that we can do, it's short term, but we can get a subcommittee, we can focus on it, we can make it happen, and then it's something that happened. Peace Plaza, Civic Center, all that is, that's gonna be huge. I don't think it's gonna happen this year, but we need to be conscious of it and involved in whatever level we can at this point, like moving the art, where is the art gonna go, when are they gonna move it? So we need to keep that kind of vibrating and going. So I do see that we can, and the sculpture acquisition is obviously a priority because that's something we have a time, and that's moving forward. So I see all these things as kind of percolating all at the same time, and I feel like the spec is actually functioning a lot better now, and that things are happening. I'm a very impatient person, so I like to see things actually happen, and I feel that they are. So, but we want to make sure that you don't feel overburdened and that you understand, what we think is a priority, and you let us know what you can focus on and what you can't, and what we can do to help. Because I think we're willing to do that too.
Yeah, so if we take the mural program application, that as a project, in many projects can be broken up into components, as you're saying of, well, maybe it's just the website, maybe we're just updating the website. And that is fine. What you as a commission need to do is understand the scope of what the project is and identify the people who are going to accomplish that task. So if it is using the mural updates as an example, and what you're wanting in the next year is to just update the website, you want to identify which of the commissioners would be in charge of looking at the website, requesting and editing that. So you want to look at it, you have to decide what edits you want, and then we have to find the path forward for that. So then it would have to go through the city process of having, city time. But the more that all of those updates and reviews can be done by commissioners, the easier it is for the city to put into action. So updating a website is easy enough. What you might run into as an example for updating a website is we want language changed. And then that language actually has implications because the language is part of something that you might find in city code. And that means we would need to change city code to actually make the language changes that you're looking for and requesting on the website. That's typically, if you guys, some of you have been involved in projects enough that you felt that back and forth. So it's just needing a team to identify exactly what the scope of the project is and then being ready to move forward with it for any of these items. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them.
I mean, we've been talking about that mural program for years. So maybe it's time to form a subcommittee to look at the mural application, the process. We've had an idea of doing a roster of artists. I mean, that's a whole nother thing for murals. But maybe we need to have a mural subcommittee formed.
And I'm definitely interested in being that subcommittee. If it's formed, throw my name in a hat.
Do we make a motion to form a subcommittee, a mural subcommittee of SPAC?
A mural program and application subcommittee.
Right.
I think that's a good start. If you would like to add that to the 2025 work plan as a project that you are wanting to bring forward and identify commissioners who would like to work on that, I think that's a good step forward.
So how do we make that happen?
You make the motion, find a second, and then
Motion.
To make a subcommittee, yeah, sure, I'll motion to form a subcommittee for the mural program and application process for updates.
Okay. Second, everyone,
Do we
In
just
agreement?
form the subcommittee
And
and
I
then
would-
put people in, or how do we do that part? I
go
guess.
ahead, Chris.
I would suggest that given the pace of how some of this business gets moved forward. So I've been involved in conversations about the city and its desire for murals for over 6 years. And so I would not name a subcommittee without giving it some sidebars and saying, within 60 days, you will come back with a list of what the key issues are and your suggestions for how to resolve them. But forming a subcommittee that goes off into the twilight, I don't think is the best strategy. I'm fine with a subcommittee, but we need to set some thresholds for ourselves.
yeah, we've been in the twilight for a while now. So I think forming a subcommittee where we actually sit down, look at the application, look at what it's on the city, look at the code, just kind of sit down and do it. I don't know about deadlines. I mean, Brian volunteered to be on the subcommittee. Do we have any other volunteers to be on the subcommittee?
Yeah, Susan and Kathleen, I don't want to overstep, but I would definitely be interested in being on the subcommittee. But please let me know if I should take more
No,
of the
not
next
at
meeting.
all. I'm good. Thank have great. Should we have one more person?
Well, we can max out at 3.
Spencer said that he would be on it too.
We can only have, we can't have quorum. Oh, here we go. Okay, so the 3, all right, so we have Spencer, Brian, and Carl. Okay.
But again, if someone else is, I don't want to, again, overstep. So if someone else is interested, but just throwing
No,
my
I
name.
think it would be great if the 3 of you could get together and take a look at what's out there and come back with recommendations. Should we say by the April meeting?
That's great. And Chris, does this make sense that the subcommittee is actually evaluating this, like the status of the mural application process, and will get back to us on their suggested steps forward?
Chris?
Yes,
Okay,
Yeah, and there are plenty, I mean, we've been looking at other mural programs around the country or in the state, and there's certainly plenty of templates for the way that other municipalities and cities do it, so, just have at it.
great. And so do you guys think in your initial assessment, do you think getting back to us in March would be viable for an initial
Or April.
assessment? Is that
March or April? I think you said April and then.
I suggested April,
I think
but,
giving you extra time.
Chris
Yeah,
said
it gives us a extra, so we're
60
halfway
days.
through February now, so yeah.
Great, I think
so.
April's more probably reasonable
Yeah.
than our next
Yeah.
meeting, for sure.
Yeah, because I want to have a lot of like good info and stuff. So we
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
action list of
Yeah.
things to do.
Okay.
All right, and for the
Great.
record, do we want to restate the motion
Sure.
as it's been amended, just so it's easy and we have it in place so we all are understanding what the action we're taking is?
Yes.
So would that include the names of the commissioners?
Sure.
And then real quick though, Spencer, Carl, do you feel like April is doable for that? Just, I want to make sure the other two. Okay,
Yeah, if we could schedule something up,
yeah,
maybe have a online discussion and then in-person one.
yeah, that's great.
Yep, that works.
Okay, so I will motion that we're gonna form a subcommittee for the mural program and application updates with Spencer, Carl, and myself, Brian. And we will present kind of a plan of action on said changes by April.
Second, again.
All right, and we'll do a roll call, just since everybody here is online. If you want to say your name and an aye or nay.
Do I call each person?
Go ahead.
Okay, Spencer,
I,
Chris,
Aye.
Krista,
Hi.
Ryan,
I.
and myself, I say aye as well. And
Is
Carl
Carl-
can't
oh,
vote
can you
yet.
vote?
Can't vote yet, 'cause
Uh,
He can vote, yeah, he can still kind of.
you just.
Aye. Yeah.
You've been actually appointed, it's just the paperwork, right?
Yeah,
Is that what
that's-
it is?
yeah, that's what I hear.
I have not, yeah, I haven't seen any paperwork.
Okay, all right, moving along, a session of the library art collection, how is that
Well,
coming?
Well, do we want to, while we're still talking
Oh,
about
sorry.
this, do we want to cover utility wraps and the kiosks?
Oh, okay.
Since we're talking about projects.
Yeah, one thing that came up, the presentation the other night to council went, I think, really well. I felt good about it. People were, the room needed a little bit of liveliness and elevating. It was kind of a somber meeting. So I think they appreciated it. We had some, good questions, feedback, two things about utility wraps. One, from Councilor Brown was, he was wondering about if a business owner wanted to have a utility wrap in front of their business that reflected the business. How would that happen? And I felt a little stumped because I didn't know if he was talking specifically, he's from Ward 5 where there's a large Hispanic population and whether there would be anything particularly in the public art collection, which is what the Downtown Development Corporation is working off of to do these, whether there would be anything in the collection that might reflect that community for whatever business I don't know which business he was talking about. The other question was from the mayor about a particular utility box that I think is outside of the downtown. I think it's in front of the Peter Courtney Veterans Building.
Right.
And they want a wrap there. I guess they had been in touch before and Kathleen will describe what's been going on about that one. But yeah, I don't know how much influence we have at this point about which wraps are going where. Chris?
I was able to observe that meeting and hear Councilor Brown's questions. I think folks need to understand that right now, the utility wraps are under the purview of urban development, and they only reside in the boundary of the downtown riverfront urban development area. So if a business owner in North Portland inquired about something, they may think that there is a program for them that does not yet exist. There are certainly works by artists of color, and I thought that he referred to an Asian business rather than a Latino one. But there are certainly works in the collection that have been made by artists from communities of color. I think the big thing, and this is what I'm particularly interested in terms of this work plan, is getting some authorization from the city to be able to wrap the boxes that are throughout the city, A, and B, wrap those works of art from work that's not necessarily from the city collection. I don't have the impression that the city is in a position to pay for this work right now. So, maybe a neighborhood association or a community around a school would take a project on. But my impression of this utility wraps is that it's cheap. Right now it's popular and it's pretty easily accomplished. So, again, there's plenty of work in the collection, whether it's well documented and whether it's well photographed, that's another issue. But I think the short answer is right now it's restricted to one urban development area. And that urban development agency picked the works of art, they picked the locations. I don't believe there was any consideration with the business community at all.
Well said, Chris. Thank you for that summary. So yes, that is the situation we're in. So those beautiful wraps you see downtown, those were completed by the Urban Development Department of the city using urban renewal area funds. And so there's a boundary there for where those funds can be used. The wraps were chosen and the placement was chosen by the staff, and I'm not sure if a committee was formed or how, the art and the locations were formed from when I review the SPAC meeting where they brought the art and the potential placements here. It was only staff that were referenced. So they chose the location of the rafts and they chose the art that would be going there. I think it's something important to keep in mind that if another group were to come to us, we could suggest to them that they go to the people who would be most impacted for that. And then the second component of that is, yes, there is no public program for people to request wraps currently. And if that were to be developed, it would be a very large program that, if SPAC chooses to develop it, that it would be a long process. There would need to be code changes. So I've heard, and just deciding on the scope of that and what that would look like. And the requester would most likely need to fund the actual wrap happening, because as you said, Chris, I haven't heard of any funding options for this to be done. But there is a potential, I suppose, if there's a neighborhood or a group that wants to come to us, just like the downtown group came to us and had this project to bring forward, that could happen. The gentleman who's at the Courtney Place Veterans Housing who would like a wrap, he has been put in contact with a staff here who works in a historic landmarks division. There is a wrap program for historic wraps. These are interpretive and informational in nature, and there's a chance that he can go through that program and get one that is that suits his needs. But unfortunately, there's no way for the public to currently request a art wrap.
What if someone came to our meeting next month and asked to, as the Peter Courtney housing people have indicated, that they want to ask the city for permission to wrap a utility box next to their property. They have the money. It's not a controversial thing like the veterans one, for example, or, I have a couple of sites in mind within my scan neighborhood that I think would be great. So are you suggesting that the city could not say your wish is granted? We have to create code to wrap a couple of boxes? Like, how did urban development wrap these boxes without a code change?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wasn't involved in that. So I'm not sure exactly what process they went through to get it approved. Some of the things that we would need to keep in mind would be what is allowed on the boxes and what is not, as far as can words be on it, can symbols be on it? All of these things need to be taken into account. From what I'm hearing from various departments and divisions, if it's something we want to look into, it would need quite a bit of research to really understand what are the barriers, what is the path forward, what actually can be done and what can't be done. Would need quite a bit of research for me to get back to everyone to say, this is where we're at and this would be a path forward.
This is another one of those things that have been on our radar for a long time. We've talked about it along the lines of other community art programs, similar to the street painting program, which has guidelines. It tells you what you can have, what you can't have, how it can be done. It's successful, and it does seem like a utility route program, which there is a template for it in other, again, in other municipalities, in other cities, in other towns, that there could be a program. And maybe it's something that we need to add back onto our long-term project, and just like what we're doing, you know, with the mural thing, is create a subcommittee to eventually to look into it and to work with you and the city and just get it on there. Let's get it on there as a utility. As I think I had hinted also, and this is coming up too, that there are neighbors who want to paint their fences. And that's gonna be coming up as well. So it sort of could all fall under the umbrella of community art programs, and maybe we work with the city on that kind of thing, kind of putting together the street painting and the fence painting and the utility wrap as a community art. I don't know, but it's something, you're right, it'll take focus, it'll take work, and to find out exactly what we can do, what we can't do, how we can change it. So I just think it should be on our long-term project list.
I do think that the difference between the utility wraps and a community art program is that the utility boxes are the property of the city. The city has complete control over how those things function, where they are placed, you know, they regulate traffic, et cetera, they're public safety items. Anyway, I would be happy to, I mean, I think I already have come up with the jurisdictions that have good working programs that reach out into neighborhoods. But the fact that a highly visible veterans project that had a lot of public involvement contacted the mayor and asked her to help them how to get something done says to me that this isn't going to go away, and that we could come out as a positive enabler if we could help them get something done. Just my 2 cents.
Well, Catherine, you've been in touch with them, right? I mean, you said you responded and referred them to Kimberly in the historic.
Okay.
That's one avenue that they could do it right away, without us having to put a lot of extra work into it at this point. I mean, it would be great if we could do it right, snap our fingers.
I wish.
You know, say, yeah. But I think, what you're indicating is it's more involved than we think.
From my initial research, it would be very involved, very involved. I don't even have my arms around the scope. I just know it's very large and involved. It touches multiple departments. From the initial feedback I got from those departments, they would suggest code changes. It's possible. It's just I would need a group of very committed people who are willing to become experts in code changes, who can get all of this knowledge, retain it all, and help carry this thing forward and be very dedicated. I imagine it's a year plus. It would be several months of just understanding the scope, and then I would imagine quite a bit longer to actually develop the program. It's a great idea. It is possible, but we need very dedicated people to carry the torch and really become familiar with it.
Wouldn't we, I mean, even if we were to do this, wouldn't we want to discuss it with the city lawyer first? Because most of that stuff runs through him, right?
Oh, yeah, those people will definitely be involved.
He would be involved. It would be something again where, you know, we'd have to understand the scope first. And that was a while. So we don't even really know what we're talking about yet. So we have to figure out what we're talking about. And then once we have a good understanding on that, then we would move forward through the proper channels, and that would definitely include the city attorney and the legal department.
And the city attorney did help your predecessor, Keith, put together a chart of the various city codes that are you know, the public art, that affect public art,
Mhm,
the aspects of, and it's a little crazy. So I think that, I think they were, yeah, oh yeah, it's available. And it's probably something you'll need to look at for the mural anyway, what, you know. But, I think there was an opening to have him kind of work with us to consolidate some of that code at some point, or advise us on consolidating some of that code, so. That's a whole nother.
It's a whole nother one. It's a whole nother one.
Yeah. And then, should we just move on to the kiosk? Are we done with that discussion about the utility wraps? Anybody else have anything to add? Okay, the library kiosk that was, there was a gentleman at the library who got a grant, as far as I understand, to use this kiosk, an interactive digital kiosk at the library to somehow link that space to the public art collection. And it was discussed whether it would be the art hall work, whether it would be with the Oregon Artist Series Foundation, you know, there was a lot of, we've talked about it a lot. But it's sitting in a closet and it could be operational, and Kathleen suggested that maybe we just have a link to the city website about, you know, with the tour of the public art collection. So just have, for now, just kind of have that out there in the art hall where they had shown us where they wanted to have it, and just have that for now, until we figure out what else. You know, what other options we have for it.
I don't have any objection to that, but I think it would be important to use the vetted material that's been gathered around the collection, such as the label copy for the works of art in the Salem Public Library. That body of work constitutes most of the work in the city's collection. So that has already been edited, fact-checked, everything's accurate. And if there's going to be explanatory material on this, whatever site this platform is going to be, I would suggest that we use that, because even the copy that was written, I think by Keith, former staff liaison, it needs to be edited. It's not very good. Apologies to Keith.
So that tour as is, go on the virtual tour. Are you all seeing that on screen?
And Chris, do you know, is this the vetted, this is on our Public Art Commission homepage, if you will. And it's the first thing you see is this, go on a virtual tour of selected pieces from the collection. Chris, do you know if this is the one that's been vetted?
Just pull up one of the things, anything from the library.
So we have downtown center and library. Let's go to library art. And I think if you scroll down, it gives you the pieces.
And I can tell you from the social media stuff, some of this is from the library, from those labels. A lot of it's not.
Yeah, a lot of it's not.
Yeah.
I would say most of it is not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something that needs to be updated?
Yes. Yes, luckily, every work of art in the library has already been documented. So it's a matter of, again, I'm not thinking about the city website, I'm thinking about this kiosk, which my understanding, because full disclosure, I'm on the board of the Oregon Artist Series Foundation, which has programmed the art hall with work by contemporary artists. A staff person at the library, without discussing this with either SPAC or Oregon Artist Series Foundation, applied to the foundation for a grant to install this kiosk. He does not have permission to display work other than work that's in the city's collection. But this was kind of an independent project that happened to get funded. So this is a good opportunity for us to get all of the material and the descriptions of the existing works in the city's collection updated. Most of it's done. Anything in the Civic Center has not been done. And if, again, we've talked about, what work needs to be rephotographed, getting that done. Again, it's a staff intensive thing. The project of labeling all the work in the library took about 6 to 8 people, 2 years. And they were very focused and they were a very high performing group. So, it's a project.
We do have it on the work plan as updating the database.
Yeah.
With information. That's another long-term project. I think what we're talking about right now, Chris, is just having them take that kiosk and have a link to what you're seeing at the website.
I guess I guess it's a start.
Yeah, basically that's what we would do, just so that it would be there, it would be another way of outreach, even if it's not all exactly as good as we would want it to be, at least it's something. It's not sitting there in the closet. And then, once we do tackle exactly what you were talking about, then it could all get updated and, we'd figure out what we want on that kiosk. Whether we want it to go to this or we want it to work another way. But I think that's something that we can kind of put on our long-term back burner for now.
Did the library, oh, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. It'll come back to me.
The library, this request request for information really came from IT wanting to know, 2 things. When we expected the kiosk to move from its current location in someone's office, to the library. And because they also get asked frequently of, hey, wasn't there a kiosk? I know there was a grant for it. When is it going to be placed? So they were wanting an update on that.
Yeah, it's been on
The last exhibit that will be programmed by the Oregon Artist Series Foundation comes down on June 13th, 2025. So I did suggest, which I think is a very practical suggestion, that as the Civic Center is emptied and staff are relocated to different locations for the seismic upgrade, that the art from largely the mayor and city manager's office suite be reinstalled in that corridor in the library so that it doesn't have to be stored where there's a cost.
is that already on our work plan too, to be in touch with?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Yeah, at this point, can we just agree or disagree to have the kiosk placed in the library, in the public area, probably in the art hall, with a link to the city, this website, that has the public art map. So I'd like to make a motion that we instruct, who do we instruct?
This city IT staff?
City IT staff to take the kiosk out of the, wherever it is, and place it there and set it up with a link to the public art map for Salem. Second, anybody?
I second.
Just a second. Everyone who approves, say aye.
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 Anyone disapprove? Any abstentions? Okay, great. So we're gonna get that kiosk in there. And if they need our advice or whatever, I'm sure. Was there anything else on the work plan that we needed to discuss?
No, the only thing that we could go into a little more detail on the work plan because we touched on it, was this very, very large project of updating all the data That is something that I personally, as the staff liaison, feel like I've gotta be the champion. Because I do feel like one of our biggest responsibilities is to take care of the collection that we have and keep that up. And so I'll be the champion to say that, I'm going to keep mentioning over and over, I would love to see a subcommittee dedicated to it, and they could start out with something manageable. And then, just a component of it. IT has, IT would allow and would like commissioners to update the actual database in what we call GIS. So there would have to be a whole training session. Once we understand the scope of what needs to be done, people will actually use the city system to go up into the database and update information. Again, this is a thing where the scope of this is very large, so understanding what the scope is of what you want to accomplish within a year or so, there needs to be work done with that, but I'm a champion for the data, let's keep the data.
Yeah, well, let's keep it on the agenda, and I think, maybe we can come up with some ideas, because it is gonna be really labor intensive. Maybe there's an opportunity for an intern or someone paid to be able to come in and do it, I'm not gonna do it.
Kathleen, I have a question. Is it, if there is missing data, could you, at maybe our next meeting, tell us, like, are we missing dimensions? Are we missing a way to record damage and repair? Or is it a matter of, we have the information, it needs to be input into the city system?
I think it's both.
Okay,
I currently am only seeing missing information. I don't know if there's information out there
Mhm.
where it is stored.
okay,
Yes, and Chris, thank you for mentioning, part of this database can be tracking, any sort of repair to it, any sort of update, anything that comes along, we can keep that in this database, and that would be a huge upgrade for us and something that we're really needing. So yes, that can go in the database. We need someone to manage it.
okay, so maybe an
Okay.
action item could be that in March or in April, you come back and you say, this is the predominant field of information that we're missing. And I estimate that we need it for 50% of the collection. And then we could kind of get an idea for, okay, it's going to take a while, or if you're missing dimensions and half of them are in the library, somebody could go over there with a tape measure, collect all that information.
Krista,
Stuff like
you're
that.
intimately involved with that database. Can you give us some of your thoughts?
Yes, there is not a lot of consistency in the database. It's not only photographs are missing or photographs aren't of good quality. Some of them there's no information about the artist apart from a name. Some of them there's no provenance information. Some of them do have condition reports. Most of them don't. So it's a pretty large scope. One thing I've started doing is going through the Excel sheet, and I've been marking which works as a first step, which works, the photographs are high enough quality that we can currently use them, which ones are okay that we theoretically could use, and which ones are not usable at all. So I already have done that first step in terms of that. I'm happy to take on the initial figuring out where the gaps are, because I'm already thinking about that and already know a good amount about that. So I would be happy by the next meeting to just kind of organize that in a way where I can just visually share that with everybody, so you can kind of see the works that we have a good amount of information. Again, Chris, as you mentioned, most of what's in the library is quite well documented. But truthfully, most of what's outside of the library is not. So yeah, I'm happy to just take that initial kind of overview and look at the scope of what would need to be done. And then we can kind of, at least we'll know what we can work on and update. And then we can kind of go from there if that is a subcommittee, if that's bringing an intern on, or if that's me working for the next 2 years to Kathleen help you update it.
That sounds,
Carl has his hand up. Did you have some comment, Carl?
Or is that the cursor again?
Oh, no, it was just a
That's
little
what I did
hand.
last
Oh,
time.
that's so funny. It turns into a little hand when it goes over on your face.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, never mind. Didn't mean to put you on the spot.
so, the Library Foundation did had an appraisal done of all of the work in the Library Foundation collection.
Mhm.
That appraisal should contain a lot of any missing information that we might have.
So yeah, I know that's kind of one of the things I've been waiting to whenever the acquisition officially happens, if there is other data that they have that they will share with us, and I assume so. We just haven't received that yet.
Yeah.
So I do think a lot of those gaps will be filled, absolutely. The photographs, I'm not sure. I do still think there are a lot that we would need to rephotograph in there. But yeah, a lot of it, the scope of work would be outside of the library, most likely.
Yeah. I know nothing has ever been done about the works in the city manager and mayor's offices.
Yeah, and the convention center is interesting too because some of it's part of theirs, some of it's now part of ours, some of it's the Oregon Artist Series Foundation, some has been, there's just some that like it's not totally clear from our database
Mhm.
what the current status is. So
I can help with that.
Would you be
Okay.
able to come back at the next meeting and sort of give us a report on the status of that and
Sure.
where you see us moving forward? And
yeah, I can absolutely do that. And yeah, Chris, if there are just a couple ones that I come across that have been part of the Oregon Artist Series at any point, yeah, thank you. I can just reach out to you. That would be great.
okay, great. So we'll put Chris on the agenda to report on that next month.
Thank you, Krista.
Okay, anything else on the work plan?
I think that's it. We've gotten a ton of work done just today. Look at us. The work plan's working already.
And speaking of the accession of the library art collection, where are we on that?
And I know, Chris, you could speak to that as well, or I'm happy to either way.
I think that the short answer is the foundation has not signed the agreement for whatever reasons, sick, vacation, people being really busy. But it should happen soon. There's not a problem. It's just getting the couple people in the same room at the same time.
Okay, well, I think I used the language, we're on the cusp of
Yes.
acquiring it, so we're still on the cusp. Okay, moving on to subcommittee reports. We met about the RFQ for the art sculpture acquisition, the 3 sites. 2 on Commercial Street and 1 in West Salem on, I believe it's 2nd Street. And it says RFP here. I thought it was gonna be RFQ, but.
Because it's a 2-step process that ends with a proposal, it will remain a RFP. However, it is a 2-step process where we have initial applicants send a resume. From that, they are then invited only certain applicants will be invited for an interview. And from that interview, they will be selected.
And how close are we to releasing that RFP?
I'm not going to put a date on it, but it will be released this spring.
I think the action from our last meeting was that Kathleen was going to make some final edits based on that discussion. And I know Susan and I both sent in some site photographs, see if those are helpful. And then I'm assuming our subcommittee will take a final look at it, and then it would go back to the city for a final review and then go out.
That's right, Chris. Thank you for that summary.
Okay. So, and no timeline as far as when you think we'll get back together as a committee?
I would hate to put a timeline on it. I think, the edit, I should send you guys probably that edit for your review in the next week, maximum 2. Then it will go through a city review. I can't speak to how long the city review will be. I'm hoping it will be very quick. But I can't speak to it for sure. It will also go through review from Urban Development, who is ultimately funding these sculptures. So they may have a little bit of feedback, but I imagine they're just going to be excited to have it, and that edits will be minor.
I'm mindful that the city has a lot going on right now. There's a lot of change. And so we should just be prepared that it's not going to be overnight, that we'll be in a queue to get it signed off on.
Okay, I think we had a timeline at one point, but maybe we need to be flexible on that. It sounds like.
Potentially.
Yes. Any other comments on that, on the acquisitions? Okay, moving on to the Salem Kaiser Together sign replacements. Spencer, myself, and Kathleen met and discussed it, and we learned a lot. First of all, the main thought was that there should be consistency in branding for the city of Salem signage. And we had learned that there was going to be a new design for a sign when you come off of I-95 on what street is that? Portland Road. And then it had gone through committee and they got input from the neighborhood, and it was this sign that they came up with, and they have the final design. And I had heard about it, so my initial thought was, well, if there's gonna be a look and feel to these signs, let's stick with something so that it's not just a new sign every place they put it. So I started to do a little noodling around to adapt that design. And then Kathleen let us know that there indeed is a style guide for signage that was created by what's his name? Kirk. No, it's, I sent something email. This kind of started, just came pretty quickly developed right now. Here it is.
Rick Yerk.
Rick Yerk. Rick Yerk, who's on the Oregon Artist Series Foundation, Chris, if I understand.
He has a design business in Salem.
Yes, and he created a very extensive style guide for downtown signage. And this is, it's got fonts and colors and designs and things that could be carried over into to signage. And
I think that this was a wayfinding project that has never been, it's not used across city platforms.
Exactly, but it is out there and it is being used in certain instances. And it is our recommendation that the city design, whoever does the design for the city, take a look at this style guide and consider using that as a format for creating signage going forward, so it's consistent and city branded, and possibly even contacting the designer to see if he would be available to be able to help with that. We also felt strongly that that intersection where they're putting the signs, their focus was to make the sign as easy to replace as possible, because there was always so much damage to those signs because people run right into it. And it was our feeling that there should be some really concerted effort to, because I've driven there and I've been confused myself about where the curve is and where you have to be for the curve. And especially at night, that they really focus on making that as, as safe and fixing the directional there as much as possible, so that they don't have to keep replacing that sign. And also one other thing was that one of the signs is a welcome to Kaiser sign. And that they recently came up with their own rebranded kind of Kaiser logo. And we felt that they really should be involved in creating their welcome to Salem's to Kaiser sign that's gonna go on that site as well. So we did come up with a motion just like a half hour ago. SPAC recommends that in order to maintain consistency of a Salem brand as established in the style guide produced by Rick York Designs, city design staff or the designer create signage for that site to reflect that brand. And that the city of Kaiser be consulted on the Welcome to Kaiser sign to reflect their own city brand. We also recommend that efforts be made to reduce the number of accidents on that curve with industry signage, such as reflective signage that actually Spencer had an image of arrows that could be placed there. So that's the motion. Does anyone second that motion? Then we can talk about it.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
I just have a question. I think that design scheme was developed about 25 years ago. I've not seen it used outside of the downtown urban development district and the West Salem urban development district. So I'm not sure, but the city actually considers that to be their across the board brand as opposed to that cursive font, City of Salem, or it's just a question. I've never seen that design scheme used outside of downtown and West Salem.
I think it's on the waterfront as well. Is there waterfront signage? We are
They're part of
just,
that's downtown riverfront urban development. Yeah.
yeah, I think we're just saying, hey, there should be a brand.
It's just a question for me.
They probably invested a lot of money in this design, style guide and they can come back to us, I assume, and say, sorry, no, we don't want to do that. And then we'll go from there. But that was how we felt pretty strongly that we liked it. We liked the fonts and the colors and what he came up with and the symbols.
In a part of those images, they had larger, like they had a big cherry that you could do signage on. They could change up the signage around town to be the scale of whatever they're using. I think that was what we were pretty excited about.
Oh, there we go.
I mean, not doesn't have to be specifically that, but I think as that becoming a welcome, like it's showing there, the scale of it can change depending on where it's located.
Well, that would be a lot more attractive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then I had a follow-up question too. I know when we were initially looking at them, one of the concerns that we collectively had was they just looked like they were made by two different cities, basically. So you mentioned that Kaiser also just recently kind of came up with a new graphic identity for themselves as well. Is there are we working towards coming up with something that's cohesive? So even maybe if they have a new way to say Kaiser and a new font, and we have a way to say Salem and a new font, would the overall feel be more cohesive?
Well, there is a sign that has both on there, Salem and Kaiser together. So I don't know whether, it would be up to a designer, whether they would want to try to integrate the two brands or just do our brand And then the Welcome to Kaiser sign would be their brand. It's a little confusing as to that, you know, because we were sort of charged with all three signs. Welcome to Kaiser, welcome to Salem, welcome, you know, Salem and Kaiser together. So, you know, at this point, I think we need to pass it along with our recommendations. Does that answer your question, Krista?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
So should we vote as to whether we want to do what's outlined in the motion? I'll approve. Say aye. Anyone opposed? Nay. Anyone abstaining? Okay, great. Moving along. Social media, Krista.
So yes, I've gotten sidetracked with what I was just kind of talking about with finding information that that makes sense and that's usable and yeah. So I haven't posted it in a couple weeks, but it is on my to-do list to actually get all of the rest of this month and March done in the next couple of weeks, just so that the city has it all and then they can just post it as needed. March, it's going to be, we'll feature women artists as well. We did that last year and got some pretty good response and reception from that. So already picking out some options for that. And then, yeah, I do think though this kind of database audit will be really helpful for this moving forward, because then I can just know exactly which ones I can pull from instead of just kind of picking one randomly from the database and seeing what we have available. So yes, going to be try and be a little more strategic moving forward as opposed to just posting for posting. And then also waiting again, wanting to make sure that we have some of that information too, because when we have gotten responses from the public, it's either if we don't have that provenance information or they want to know where the funding's coming from, things like that. So being able to make sure that we have that information to post. I know Kathleen, you mentioned there's like a couple of specific people that will reach out to you if we don't include that kind of information. So just for transparency, people want to know where this artwork is coming from and where the city's money is going to. So just trying to yeah, provide that for them a little bit more consciously.
We had also talked about kind of promoting the commission a little bit more in the, you know, what we're doing. So when things do come up, like the Slow Art Day, you know, maybe focus on those three artworks that we are gonna focus on, and also use it as a chance to publicize.
Absolutely. Yeah. So once those are kind of figured out and we have those logistics, yeah, let me know. And actually, if you can let me know too, I know you mentioned them briefly, I didn't write them down. If you could actually just send me the list too of the artworks to make sure that we have good photographs, because that is usually the factor that will determine whether or not we can post them. I can just make sure that we have that available.
And yeah, once all that's, and I'm also gonna create a graphic to publicize the event. And we'll probably have a little press release kind of thing that you can draw from to kind of just get that information out there. So I'll get that to you.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any other comments about social media? Thank you, Krista. The black discs, art collection maintenance. The summary says these and thank you for the summaries on here. I think it's a big improvement. We have summaries now on our agendas. Lee Eminent is completing the repair work. And let's see, completed in late February, each time the commission may consider hosting a gathering. I think we talked about having it in the spring. And there was someone in particular that was involved with the artwork that was anxious to celebrate it. So should we put that back, actually the celebration, if it's gonna be in late February, maybe by the March meeting, it will be installed. Were we thinking about having something as it's being installed or celebrating it after it's installed?
I wanted pictures when it was installed again.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's gonna be cold out there. When is the work being started on the civic center, do you know? And will there be any interference?
I don't think work's not going to start for quite some time, not until the summer, I don't believe. Would you see any changes? I think the big move is happening in June, off the top of my head, I could be wrong on that, but. We still have.
I also think we should look at whether that the location that the black discs came from will be inside a construction fenced zone. Because I have some photographs that I need to send you, Kathleen. The Mel Katz piece that's at the corner of Chemeketa and Liberty has damage from where that construction on that block happened.
Oh, that's a shame.
And they protected that with some kind of a box around it, didn't they?
They did not protect it adequately. They
Yeah.
protected it sort of.
Yeah,
that's
it
why
like
there's,
kind of goes around the base, but it doesn't actually protect the entire structure.
yeah, it was open to the top.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just think if the piece, if the city is repairing the black discs and they're going to be surrounded by a construction zone, we should probably store the black discs until the end of the seismic project.
Well, then maybe they shouldn't be reinstalled.
Yes, let me get back to everyone on that. I'll see if they can confirm.
Yeah, it depends on whether that area is gonna be worked on. It's kind of outside of the building.
But definitely adjacent to all that pavement that's shifting out.
So we'll find out about that. That's a good point.
Can I just, I'm so happy to hear that those black discs are getting reinstalled. My family and I were down there last week and noticed they were gone. I wonder if it's worthwhile putting some kind of signage up that says that they're going to be returned. We were wondering what happened to them. I didn't know. I assumed they were, destroyed or something. I don't know if that's a difficult thing to do or not.
Yeah, I wonder, Krista, I don't know how many people follow social media, and if you would, know about it, but if it could have been put in a social media post, hey.
We did, when I featured them, it said that they were undergoing conservation soon. So that they would be worked on. But I do think, yes, we can, once something like that happens, we can definitely make a mention of it. I do think, though, creating a temporary sign would be really beneficial, though, especially if it is going to be a little while. Just because, like if Carl, you and the fam are there and you haven't seen we're follow us on Instagram or anything like that. Just a little something simple just to let people know.
What would that entail? What the city would have to do that?
Well, being that I work in parks, I have some ideas of how we do temporary signage. It's not very artistic. It is a laminated piece of paper stuck to a construction barrier. So that is a way that is a safe, easy way to make signs, inexpensive, right? Anything beyond that would take funding, approvals, but a construction barrier with the laminated piece of paper, I feel like I can run that through the proper channels and get that posted.
In the meantime, I don't know if there's a place to put it there or not, but maybe it would that. How do you feel about that, Carl? If there was something like that there?
Yeah, even if it could be well, I don't know. I understand, sounds like it's going to be many months, right, before it's back. So it would have to be something pretty secure. But even if it was a QR code, when we were down there, we were like, oh, what happened? And, kind of sad that it wasn't there. We're so used to seeing it. But I understand the difficulty of that.
Yeah, let me see. Maybe,
Isn't there was a plaque there that, that
I believe.
Could that be put back and then with a note or something like? There's a little post with a little steel placard that talked about the artist and the.
I think it might have been on the
Was it on
base or the art. I can't remember offhand. Let me take a look at it. Let me first see if it's going to be in this construction zone. Lee believes that it might be installed or completed late February. So if it won't be in a construction area and Lee is getting it in the next, before we even have our next meeting. Then I don't know if there's much discussion that we need to have, but let me do a little research and then I can think about potential signage and what that might look like. It's a park there that it's in. So our park staff might be able to think of something, creative that's that would be suitable for the area. So let me do a little research and get back to everyone, and see if something can be done.
Okay, if it is gonna be reinstalled.
Yeah.
Just before we go to commissioner comments, I did want to just backtrack to one thing. And I think we can just put it on the agenda for next month is now that the presentation has been given to council, and I did say we're gonna take it on the road. The first step to that is to present it to the neighborhood association chair meeting. And I'm not sure when that quarterly meeting will come up, if you can find out when that is. And maybe we can, a couple of us can go to that meeting, present, and then start arranging for going to neighborhood association meetings. We can ask the neighborhood associations if they'd like us to come, and then start scheduling those throughout the year.
All right, we'll start by figuring out when that neighborhood chair meeting is, and then at our next meeting, assign people to the task.
Okay, great. Commissioner comments? Anything we haven't talked about that you wanna report or say or? Chris, you have the exhibit that's up at the convention center now. Do you wanna just say 2 words about that?
Sure. Two younger artists, they both grew up in our Scan neighborhood. Shoki Tanabe and Adam Zeke. Lifelong friends, paintings and carved wood. And that show is up at the convention center until the middle of June. And then in the level 2 gallery, and then there will be a companion show of different work that opens in the library art hall on March 10th, runs till the middle of June.
Great, anybody else? Anything to?
I saw that exhibit and it's spectacular. It's nice.
Okay, there's no other comments?
We have a chat. It was maybe this just Spencer saying he left.
Is somebody
Just a little
chatting
chat.
there?
Oh,
Chat.
Oh, Spencer had to leave. Okay. All right, well, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
See you
you.
next
thanks for all the work done.
Yeah, all right.